Hi. So real quick, I just want to make a video walkthrough to talk about and to explain problem number 14 right here, because obviously there's a whole lot going on in this problem. And so the way we start problem 14 is the same as the way we start all of the ones on this backside. Obviously they get a little bit more confusing as we go, but really what we want to look for is what's happening in the bottom of the fraction. So obviously I just started looking at number 13 here, and the reason is I just want to reiterate, no matter which problem we're looking at, we're recognizing what's in the bottom of our fraction. We call it the denominator, and we have to multiply by that number divided by itself. And so number 13 is a little bit more normal, and we would do the same thing there. And obviously 14 is a lot tougher, but it's going to start the same way. And so we're going to recognize that there's a square root of 6 on the bottom, and so we're going to multiply by square root of 6 over square root of 6. If I can get my pen to start working. Here we go. So first thing we're going to do, multiply by square root of 6 over square root of 6. And just like always, right, when we multiply a couple fractions together, we're multiplying across. So bottom times bottom, top times top. And so let's move down and let's talk about the bottom first. The bottom is just like the bottom has become in all sorts of problems like this. We just kind of want to look at the number inside the radical, and we'll multiply them together, and then that number will stay under the radical. So 6 times 6 is 36, but since it was square root of 6 times square root of 6, it's going to be square root of 36. And then we want to do the same thing up top, and I think that's where the tricky part of this problem becomes. As we multiply across, this is just like three things being multiplied together. It's like 2 times the square root of 3 times the square root of 6. And so we kind of want to do, what we would do if we were like matching up like terms at this point. And so what I mean by that is we go down to this next piece. As we try to make the top of this become a little bit more simpler, let's work with our 2 square root things to start. And we'll multiply those two numbers together, but we'll put what we get underneath the square root. And so 3 times 6 is 18, but since it was square root of 3 times square root of 6, we'll put the 18 under the square root still. Now, we have not done anything with the 2 yet, so we'll just write the 2 in front still. And then the last thing we want to do here is in the bottom of our fraction, the reason why we multiplied by square root of 6 over square root of 6 in the first place is to get a perfect square, right? And so the square root of 36 is just a number. It's just 6. All right, perfect. Now, the issue here is when we multiplied the top together, we got this square root of 18, but that square root of 18 is not simplified. Now, it's not a perfect square, so the square root can't go away totally, but it's not simplified, so now we got to start simplifying. So let's step down again. We'll still have our 2 out front, but then as we simplify the square root of 18, we want to think of these perfect square numbers, right? 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, and so on, right? Because this is like 1 squared, and 2 squared, and 3 squared, and 4 squared, and 5 squared. And so we want to see which of those numbers, what's the biggest one that'll go into 18. And the biggest one that'll go into 18 evenly is going to be 9. And so we can split the square root of 18 up into 2 different radicals. We'd say the square root of 9 and the square root of 2, right? Because 9 times 2 is 18, so we still have the same value here. But now we've got this square root of 9, which is perfect because that's a perfect square. We'll deal with that in just a second, but let's make sure we still have our divided by 6 in the bottom. All right, now we still got more work to do, so we'll step it down again. And the biggest work in this step is recognizing this. The reason why we chose 18 to be 9 times 2 is because the square root of 9 is just 3. So now up top we still have that 2 out front. We now can turn the square root of 9 into 3, so this is like times 3, and then times, and we still have the square root of 2 sitting there. And then as well, we still have the 6 in the bottom of our fraction. Now I'll start moving to the right. I'll kind of bring it up here so that we have more space because we still have a little bit more work to do. I'm going to put my fraction bar there first. What we want to look at now is the 2 numbers not under the square root radical. And so 2 times 3 up top, we can actually do that, right? 2 times 3 is 6. Now we still have the square root of 2 sitting there, so we'll still leave it there. And then we still have the 6 in the bottom of the fraction. And now there's just one step left because we see a 6 on top and a 6 on the bottom. And so we can actually divide that now. And 6 divided by 6 is just 1. And then we still have that square root of 2 out there. And then I guess we can do one last step. This is like 1 times square root of 2. But we don't need to write the 1 when we're timesing things by 1. Just like x is technically 1x, right? But we don't write 1x. We just write x. And the same thing can happen here. So we can just get rid of the 1 and just call it square root of 2. And that will be our final answer. So I know that was quite the explanation. Please let me know if that made sense. I hope this helps and gets you onto the right track. As you can see, 15 will be very similar to that, 16 and so on as well. So keep working hard. Let me know if I can help you out. Thank you very much for your time.